welcome back to the Mr. Arsenal podcast for another match day preview. Not match day itself, but we are previewing the upcoming game between Arsenal and Sporting Lisbon away over in Lisbon, the first leg. As you can see, I am joined by James. How you doing, my friend? I know you recovered from the weekend.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think Reece Nelson reminded me of the great work he did at home to Nottingham Forest, which was my last Premier League home game this season. And come the hour, come the man. And still a long way to go, though. Many a twist and turn. And we've got a European campaign to also try to get success in. So, I know it sounds very cliche, but one game at a time.
Yeah, it was just, going back to Saturday, it was so stressful that day in terms of the action, that 90 minutes of football. Of all the teams, the sort of cool drama that weren't the team I was expecting, but it is what it is.
Indeed, but it just goes to show there are no easy games in the Premier League, and I think the fans did well as well. I mean, even though I wasn't there, in previous years, Ryan, if we were 2-0 down after an hour, they would have gone. But they stayed behind and they cheered on the team, which is also important. And we've got some very interesting away days in particular: Fulham, Newcastle, West Ham, Liverpool, Man City, Forest. So I think the title is going to be, although the Emirates is a fortress, the title is going to be won on the road, whether it's us or Manchester City.
Yeah, again, we've got a few. Again, just before we get to Lisbon, we have got a few tough games. Obviously, away to City themselves. We've got away to Anfield, but just before that, and I think just after we played Man City, we got Newcastle away as well. So I think they're the three games for us that's going to make or break us, basically, in terms of first or second. Because I've been saying for months, it's between us and City that Man United weren't, even though mathematically they were there, they're not there yet, and that's always been about first or second. But we would have taken at the start of the season massively, considering where we have been for the last how many years.
Yes, but it's also important to win something, Ryan. And I really do think, although we're having a great season, nobody expected us to be top. It's brilliant. We've got to enjoy it. But I think for the long-term benefit of Saka in particular and Odegaard, they want to win something. They want to win things. And you can't blame them. They want to win things. And if we can show that we can win with Arsenal, then it'll be even sweeter, of course. We're fighting on two fronts. And the Europa League is a great opportunity. And we've got a team that we've got to take them seriously. We can't take them lightly. They've got some very good players. We played them at the Emirates in 2018 in the November. I think you were there. I believe I was also there, I think. Yeah, we were both there at that game where I believe, I think it was Danny Welbeck suffered an awful injury in that game, I believe.
His last game for Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, it happened right behind the goal where I was. And because, when you had Guendouzi with his hand on his head and Yeremi Mathieu for Sporting Lisbon being capped by Nani, and also our block being moved, much to everybody's bemusement, where you buy a ticket next to your guilty pleasure in the away end, and then you get an email from the club saying, "Oh, we've moved you a couple of blocks along to accommodate Sporting Lisbon fans who were very rowdy." And I remember the guy behind me in the clock end. I won't repeat what he said to some of them, but it was very, very funny.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm half expecting that getting an email again, because I am going to next week's game because of all the hassle we've been having with trying to get older tickets. I thought I'll try again. Got food, got them. So I thought, you know what, grab them because it's gold dust all of a sudden. Tickets are gold dust.
First and foremost, congratulations, Ryan, and they were sold out in 27 minutes. What time did you log in? 5 o'clock in the morning?
I was phoned up. I got on the phone and literally just phoned up and just waited.
Hey, yeah, no, I've been doing it online, of course, and I've been quite lucky with my home games this season because obviously at the start of the season with the double header of Fulham and Aston Villa, nobody knew how it was going to go, and they went on sale at the same time, and I got them okay. Same with Nottingham Forest as well. And then with the Europa League, all the attention turned to PSV. And I managed to sneak in and log in and get my ticket for Bodo Glimt and FC Zurich. So job's a good one. But from my point of view, especially coming from games from Amsterdam, I've been very fortunate that I've been to Arsenal Sporting Lisbon at home, and also I've been in the stadium of Sporting Lisbon on holiday. So you want to give somebody else a chance. One thing Corona has taught me is I've been so lucky through the years, Ryan, to do so much that everything I've done before, especially coming from so far away, there's no real need to do that again. And then you also want to think of your fellow supporters, and you want somebody else to have a chance. So, fingers crossed for the Guna that's never even maybe seen Sporting Lisbon nor any Portuguese side first time in their lives, that they get to see that next Thursday. And, it should be very exciting.
Yeah, well, hopefully touch wood. Yeah, again, Arsenal fans do need, it is Europa League and all that, but they do need to remember Sporting Lisbon did start the season in the Champions League and only just dropped in the place of Tottenham at the last seconds of the game, basically. Could have scoring with Højbjerg against Marseille.
And it was also a tough group. I mean, I put this question to you. If we was in their group, do you think we'd have got out of it?
Well, I think we would have struggled like Tottenham, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
it would have been real. Do you remember the Napoli group from a couple of years ago where we didn't know if we was in until the dying seconds in Napoli? Do you remember? I think it would have been one of them. I think it would have been one of them where because this is the thing for next season. I mean, it's brilliant that we're on the cusp of Champions League football, but we haven't played it for 6 years. So the longer you're out of it, the more difficult it is to acclimatise once more. And in the case of some Arsenal fans, not all of them, I can only look on and draw on my own experiences, at home to Ostersund and Rennes and Napoli and Sporting Lisbon and Frankfurt and Standard Liège in the Europa League home games, where I've got the impression from some quarters that if it's not Real Madrid, Bayern Munich or Barcelona, everyone else is a pub team. But as I said to you when we spoke, when the draw was made, I was saying to a couple of my mates as well, what big team do you know would have been in the Europa League for 5 consecutive seasons and not won it? I think if Juventus was in it for 5 seasons, they'd have won it by now. Sevilla, everybody knows their history in it. So we've got a great opportunity, and the 30th anniversary is also coming up. We've spoken to Kevin Campbell on your channel before, and the 30th anniversary of that. I mean, both of us are not that old, but there was a time when Arsenal reached 2 European finals back to back in 94 and 95.
Yeah.
And it was, very unlucky with a lob from the halfway line as well. But otherwise, it would have been 2 European titles in a row. But times have changed. But I think we will have enough against Sporting Lisbon over 2 legs. But if we do go out at the last 16, it's an opportunity missed. It really is, particularly at this stage. Particularly. And I think that not just because United's dramatic game against Liverpool last weekend, I think Real Betis will turn United over 2 legs.
Yeah.
You have to remember that Real Sociedad, they won at Old Trafford, a good side, and Real Betis as well. I think those 2 teams will go further, and if we make it to the last 8, you can't pick and choose. But Sporting Lisbon have got some good players, Marcus Edwards and Hector Bellerin and Mateo Reis and Tilin Xiao as well, who's at Barcelona, people forget. And I watched their 1-0 win against Portimonense, where they won 1-0, and they left Bellerin on the bench for the entire game. But they also had Tilin Xiao come on as a sub, had Mateo Reis come on as a sub and Yester as well. So it's a good side. That people will talk about Benfica and people will talk about Porto, but we mustn't let our guard down and we mustn't think that this is going to be all right, because it's going to be very difficult. You saw with the last round, Union Berlin beat Ajax over 2 legs, and everyone was saying, isn't it a shock? No, it's not a shock. Union Berlin, like Braga in the European competition they've had as well. If you pay attention, you know what's coming. If you pay attention, in Union Berlin, they've slowly but surely made their progress. I think they'll reach the last 8, and if they do face Arsenal, then Gillespie Road Metro Station better be ready for a shower of stickers, because living in this vicinity of the Ajax Stadium, they were sticking stickers of their club and their badge literally all over the metro station. So even in the following morning, when you're on the way to work, you just see Union Berlin. So if they end up facing us in the last 8, should we get there and should they get there, then Gillespie Road station managers are going to have to grow their fingernails, I think.
Just get the old paint scraper that as well.
Yeah, scraper. Yeah.
No, but the reason I mentioned, obviously, them being in the Champions League in that group, it was a tough group, as we mentioned before. One of them being, I say this now, but it involved the other team in North London, and the other team in North London struggled against Lisbon in both home and the away game, the opening fixture, and even on their home turf. They only just got a result in the home game. They lost in the last 2 late goals in the away game, and one of them being one of their own products that done it. So they've got some top quality. They've got quality players.
Absolutely.
We can't do what I think certain players did on Saturday, and we've said throughout the years certain players do. The games already won. Where Arsenal, that's only Lisbon sort of thing, or in Saturday's case, Bournemouth. Think the game's won before ball kicks, and then get complacent.
Yeah.
Because the next thing you know, you're out of time before you've even got going.
Exactly. And we're away from home first as well. And if you think of our European away games so far, losing in Eindhoven, where, I was there with goals from De Jong and Joey Veerman, and then playing in Sint Gallen and not in Zurich due to the commitments of the Zurich Stadium. I think there was a concert or something. And we haven't been convincing away from home in a European sense, and so Lisbon is a step up from Sint Gallen, from Glimt, and also from Bodo Glimt, and also Eindhoven. So going to be very interesting.
No, definitely. Going in the chat saying James, Bournemouth was difficult for us, so everyone will be difficult for us. Hopefully, Arteta has learnt from his last time in the Europa League knockout rounds, obviously when they were last in Europe, and
yes, let's hope. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously having no fans there also played a part. I really believe that. I think if it would have been similar to the Atletico atmosphere of 2018, it could have well been different. But Gary makes a great point there. He has to learn from it. He really does. Because if we do go out of the Europa League, there's only one trophy left, and yes, it's the ultimate, but we haven't got it yet, and we've only got 12 chances to fight for it, and you don't know when the chance will come round again. But you also can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose what you win and what you don't win. I mean, for all the criticism that United are getting, they're not going to end up trophyless, are they?
No.
And they could still win the FA Cup, although it would be nice if a less fashionable club won the FA Cup. Like, for example, the story of Wigan almost 10 years ago. It would be nice if another smaller club, or a club that nobody expects, in inverted commas, could make it and try to win the cup as well.
Well, I was saying I think I was with Colin on Sunday on the stream, and I was saying basically because obviously Man United, Man City, and I said, I mentioned Brighton, obviously, like,
yeah,
if everything they've had to go through in terms of Graham Potter start of season, up and going and leaving to go to Chelsea, even though it hasn't worked out so far, but he's done that, and they've had to bring in, with all due respect, an unproven Premier League manager. It's working so far, playing better football, they're actually attacking more, scoring more goals than they were under Potter in the first place. So maybe there's a pattern coming with Graham Potter, but we'll see how that plays out at Chelsea. I'd like to see, again, I would like to see someone other than City or United, anyone but them. So Brighton would be like the ideal choice, because they haven't. The last time it was in the final it was against United, and they lost.
Yeah, 83 in the year that I was born. And they had a great chance to win it, and I think he missed an open goal. I think it was Gordon Smith. I think, but it will be really interesting to see what happens. I think Blackburn as well. I think with their history, I think they've got a shot at winning at Bramall Lane. I think the games will catch up with Sheffield United, starting with tonight away to Reading. I think games will catch up with them, and yes, they've had a great win in the FA Cup against Spurs, but games can catch up with you, as you see with Man United as well. I mean, yes, they did very well to win the Carabao Cup, but the run they had, there wasn't away to Charlton, there wasn't away to Burnley. They played at home.
Yeah.
And then Forest in it over two legs that are in two minds about whether to push and go and stay up or try to avoid relegation. So you couldn't have handpicked a better run, especially at home. If they were going to Turf Moor or they were going to the Valley, then I think they would have had a more difficult time. But it's taking nothing away from Ten Hag's great work already. But as I've said on many different platforms, when he first got the job, he's always been a slow starter. Always. From Go Ahead Eagles to Utrecht to Ajax. Even with Ajax, the first 6 months, you wouldn't have believed how many people wanted him out and how many question marks there were within the first 6 months. So same with FC Utrecht as well. Completely exactly the same. He starts slow and then he builds up momentum, but he's doing a very good job.
Sunday aside.
Sunday aside, indeed.
No, again, I said this to Colin on a stream we were doing at the time. All jokes aside, it isn't the result on Sunday wasn't down to Ten Hag's wholly. It's more the players that have been here under Solskjaer and all that have been on the face of battering by Liverpool home and away over the years. Just gave up and completely left Ten Hag exposed tactically, and players like Deck, his captain, insisting to come off even though they couldn't do it. But I want it off. Didn't want to see the game out.
Well, we're talking about Sporting Lisbon tonight, and when I was in Lisbon for Sporting Lisbon against the Rio Ave, there were protests in the stands where they kept walking out and walking back in and walking out and walking back in, and Fernandes was playing for Sporting Lisbon, and you could tell that he's a brilliant footballer, but he appeared to be back then much more concentrated on his football. And you don't know if it's, I've got to move now, everything's all right, we're all set. But if he continued to concentrate on his football, when was the last time you saw him score a free kick? Direct, from about 25 yards out.
Honestly, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember.
He was doing that for fun in Portugal. I know the league isn't as tough, but I just think maybe he's kind of took his eye off the ball a little bit. And great shout as well from, I think it's Big Uno 81 about Alan Smith. And I've been fortunate to interview the great man. And a little anecdote just in case the question that just come up, wasn't sure. Alan Smith, at the end of his time at Leicester, there was rumours that Valencia were interested in him. And he said to me, James, he said, I really wanted to go. He said, I studied languages at university, at Birmingham University, and I looked at Lineker at Barcelona, and I thought, I want some of that. I'd love to live abroad and learn a new language and everything. But the interest was never concrete because he could have signed for Chelsea, he could have signed for Manchester United, but he chose Arsenal because he thought Arsenal were going places under George Graham. And I even said to him, I said, Alan, I said, you were twice Golden Boot winner. Did you never receive any overtures? He said, James, if I did, I didn't find out about them. And if I did, George must have knocked him back. But he's a consummate professional, you know. And I went away from that interview. You know, imagine if he'd have gone to Valencia. Imagine two of the most important goals in our history might never have been scored. And, you know, just a joy to speak to. I saw him outside of when I was at the Brighton away game on New Year's Eve. And but obviously I've spoken to him before, and there was a big crowd around him and that kind of thing. And so, you know, like going back to my decision not to go to Sporting Lisbon next Thursday at home, you've got to let other people have their chance. You know, I've been fortunate enough to speak to him one-on-one about his career. You know, he used to play for Overchurch, and then he went to Leicester. But when he arrived at Leicester, he was told that he's going to be in the reserves to build up his experience and to build up his resistance. You know, so one of the finest strikers that Arsenal have ever had, when he arrived at the club, Jock Wallace said to him, "You're going to be in the reserves for a little bit because you've got to, you know, build up your experience." And he even said himself, you know, 1 minute he's playing against Trevor Brooking. And he remembered a newspaper cutting where, like, a picture of him against Trevor Brooking, and he had to kind of pinch himself. But I maintain, along with Olivier Giroud, Smith is one of the best strikers we've ever had. I mean, quite rightly, Thierry Henry and Ian Wright so rightly get the plaudits, as they so richly deserve. But if you're also talking about strikers that have played a massive part in Arsenal's history, Alan Smith is definitely one of them, and a fantastic footballer.
No, exactly. And as you say two. I say three of the goals because obviously he scored at Anfield '89. He scored one and assisted the other.
Yeah.
So there's that. And as you say, I'm assuming I'm referring to obviously the Parma game as well, where he scores an absolute blind of a volley.
Yeah, but also as well for younger Arsenal fans as well. I mean, I've been supporting the club for 33 years. I know that football has changed and society has changed, but the pride in those cup runs in Europe, it was proper Arsenal. From every single pore, literally, there wasn't much football on the telly. You could hear the crowd at Highbury willing us over the line, you know, and we managed to do it, and we managed to win a European trophy. And to think, you know, people say about, it's Parma in the final. They knocked out Benfica and they knocked out Ajax. That's who they knocked out to play us in the final. And they did. And they had like Asprilla and Zola and Nevio Scala as well, who's an underrated manager. You know, he did great stuff at, I think it was former Milan player as well. And, you know, I maintained that in my 33 years, that European Cup Winners' Cup win, that is right up there with the double of '98 and the Invincibles. Right up there in terms of personal memories. It's like people say that, your top three players of all time. I think when people give different answers that people don't expect and kind of chalk them off to say, you're off your rocker. But it's also a very personal thing. I mean, when I was a kid, Paul Merson was my hero. I mean, my mum used to do her nut about me trying to, you know, replicate long shots in the garden, and instead of the underside of the bar, it's the underside of the flower box, you know, and all the flowers go falling down, you know, because you're just inspired by the man, you know, just all those wonderful goals he scored. I mean, for any gooner that hasn't seen the clip of the 501 goals of Paul Merson, I watch it from time to time and I just marvel. I mean, that goal against Leeds in the FA Cup, that amazing goal against Sheffield Wednesday and Crystal Palace and at home, and the chip against Everton, you know, scoring in Mönchengladbach as well when Wenger first took charge from long range. It's just one of my all-time heroes, Merson, you know, and obviously Bergkamp is the greatest Arsenal player I've ever seen. And I know people will always say about Thierry Henry, but they forget how many goals did Dennis put on a plate for Thierry Henry. He put many on a plate for him. And, obviously he couldn't fly due to his own personal circumstances. But for a young man who was given his opportunity by Johan Cruyff at the age of 17, who thought to himself that he could combine a study to become a physiotherapist together with football, and then soon realised that football is asking too much of his time. It's just an amazing footballer. And I mean, here in the Netherlands, you don't hear a peep out of him, Ryan. You really don't. I mean, he leads a very, very quiet life. I mean, for me, it's a real privilege to live in his home city and to speak his mother tongue. It's a complete privilege. I didn't move here because of that, but obviously when it all comes together, I mean, I spoke to his nephew Roland Bergkamp, who played for Brighton and Excelsior Rotterdam, and I said to him, he was playing for RKC Waalwijk at the time, and I said, Roland, this interview is all about you. I said, but I can't leave here today and ask you about your uncle, the greatest Arsenal player I've ever seen, and one of the greatest Dutch players of his generation. Did he ever give you any advice? Did he ever give you any tips and that kind of thing? And his response was, James, I didn't see him very often. He said, but when I would watch Arsenal games, I would become a fan because of him. You wouldn't see him for 80 minutes, but yet he would be the one who would give the pass for the goal. Or he would be the one to score the winning goal. And I'm going to be showing my age here a little bit, but I remember the radio commentary from 5 Live for the Newcastle game at St James's. And I kid you not, experienced commentators like Ian Dennis, like Alan Green, who are credits to their craft and brilliant commentators, for the first 5 minutes after that goal, they couldn't work out if he meant it or not. Bearing in mind, I hadn't seen the highlights yet. I was just listening. But yeah, I knew he meant it. I knew he meant it. And just a wonderful, wonderful footballer.
Yes. Sorry about that. Dogs just went for some reason, but it is what it is.
Not to worry.
Obviously mentioned Ryan, but obviously Mitchell, but Dennis's son.
Yeah.
He's come over here. Obviously, he had a trial at Watford. He's now playing. I think he's put some professional contracts with Bromley. He's scored a couple. I was doing again another watch along, not this week. That's gone the week before the last home game we did against Brentford. And Mitchell Bergkamp came up and he scored for Bromley. I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay. But again, like it just goes about his business. It's not. What I like about certain players, like from what I'm seeing with Mitchell, is he's not using his dad. He's not going, look who my dad is. I should be someone. I should be up here, up in the upper echelons of big leagues and all that. You have like you see other like Cliverts and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually going, no, I accept who my dad is, but I want to be my own person, be my own man, my own player, and be judged on my talent, not because of who my dad is. Because obviously we've seen over the years Paul Ince and obviously now Tom Ince, and Tom Ince got, because of Paul Ince, Tom was given rave reviews to this, that, and the other, never lived up to the height. I mentioned before, Patrick Kluivert, obviously his son Justin, all over the place, now settled somewhere in Italy.
Yeah,
but they've never, because of their dad's eye, they put themselves on these big clubs or these big stages straight away as young kids.
Yeah,
and they never live up to the hype. What I like about Mitchell, he's gone, I'll play anywhere. I want to do it on my own merit and put myself on the map that way if I do.
Yeah. Well, I think given the personality of his parents and his father, I don't think he would have been allowed to think the first option of I am my father's son, so therefore.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like that attitude is very. We've seen, as I mentioned, a couple of players already. It's refreshing to see that. Obviously, he's been brought up. You see it, play out and all that.
Well, he was also at Almere City in the youth setup, Mitchell. He was in the youth setup because I remember a work colleague. I went into work one day and I started my work, and my colleague come up to me and said, "James, I was standing next to your idol last night." I said, "What's you know?" Because his son was in the same youth setup, and he knew that I was an Arsenal fan. So he decided to, before I even started work, he just come running up to me and said, "Do you know where I was last night? Do you know where I was? Do you know where I was standing next to? Your idol." And it was great fun as well. But that former colleague of mine is also a Spurs fan, so I don't quite know what happened to him. But it was still a nice fellow.
Yeah. Go back to Thursday. Go get your score. So I know in unlimited time here of yourself. What's your score prediction for this first leg? Because obviously we'll come back next week. 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, because due to our current away form in Europe, we haven't played an away game for since last I think the end of October, I believe. And so it's a long time. Sporting, good side on good form. I think they've won their last 3 games. I think. So I think if you weigh it up, I think it will be a 1-1 draw. What about yourself, Ryan?
It depends on the situation of the first 11. If he makes too many changes, like obviously we probably expect Turner to be in goal. Don't mind that. Because we haven't seen Jakob Kiwior play for us yet. If he brings him in like raw like that, yeah, I don't know. Jorginho might come in. I think 1-1, either 1-1 draw, or he might nick it 2-1. But I don't think it's going to be a barnstorming whitewash of one in one leg.
Yeah, and I think what's also really important. You mentioned Matt Turner. I championed Ramsdale playing in Eindhoven away to PSV. I championed. I was delighted when I got in the stadium to find out he was playing, and I watched him, and he didn't pass that test. He should have had Joey Fearman's shot, and he looked unsure on crosses. And as I say, I would choose Ramsdale for Thursday night. I would choose Ramsdale for both legs, because if we are on the cusp of Champions League football, Ryan, you're doing him a favour by giving him experience away from home in Eindhoven, away from home against Sporting Lisbon, because next season when he's in the tunnel at the San Siro, and he's in the tunnel at the Allianz, and he's in the tunnel at the Bernabeu, at least he will have that experience to fall back on. I hope we go all the way to the final in Budapest. I hope to be speaking to you, previewing a Real Betis or a Real Sociedad or a finals in the coming rounds. I really hope I am. But I think, I think give Ramsdale an opportunity on Thursday night as well. Yeah. Because he will know himself. He's been brilliant this season. Of course he has. But he will know himself that European, he doesn't want to play Champions League football with not the optimal amount of experience given to him. Yeah. And I would go for Ramsdale on Thursday night. I'd go for Ramsdale till the end of the tournament. I don't see what the problem is. And I'm not. It's not that I don't rate Matt Turner, because I do. But in the home game against Bodo Glimt, we were 3-0 up and then just took our foot off the gas. And Bodo Glimt had chances. And against a better team, they would. I'm not saying they would have come back to draw, but it could have been 3-1, could have been 3-2. So a long way to go, and just take it game by game. And I look forward to speaking as well ahead of the second leg, which you will be at. So very exciting.
Yeah. One sec. I've seen last comment here from Stefan. Outrageous that Arsenal haven't won more than the one Europe. Say one. We did win the European Fairs Cup back in 71 as well, 72. Whenever it was.
7. I believe in 70. I believe
it's in the 70s. Yeah. I know that's. No one's gone play, but we have technically won 2, but the most recent, most notable one was the Cup Winners' Cup in '94. But so it goes on to say, but so have Celtic and Rangers, bigger clubs though. Obviously, saying
well, I think as well. I think it's courageous to say outrageous there. I think it's quite courageous. I really do. It's a fellow gooner.
under George Graham as well. People need to remember under George Graham in his era at the start of it, we had all English clubs had a 5-year ban put on us because of one set of fans doing what they did.
Exactly, and also a government that was hell bent on sending a message.
Yeah,
a government that was hell bent on sending a message. And I mean, as I say, it's not my party. I can't. I've been out of the UK so long, I'm not allowed to vote anymore. So even as a British passport holder, I can't vote in general elections, which is very sad. I can vote in local elections in the Netherlands, but that's it. Can't vote in general elections here because I'm not naturalised, and I am still British. But as you so rightly say, that ban. I mean, their direct city rivals hit the brunt of that, because that Everton side under Howard Kendall, with the fantastic players they had, they could have well won a European Cup. So their direct rivals and direct city rivals, I think, were punished the most because they had a team that could push on.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Now, and I've always championed the fact that if that ban had ever been put in place under George Graham, that initial team that from '89, the early '90s, before he got done basically for the envelopes and all that. I believe he would have won us. He would have got us a European Cup, Champions League final, and possibly would have won it. With that team, there's a possibility because look what he did again. He went toe to toe again domestically. Went toe to toe with the best team in Europe. At that time with Liverpool.
Yeah.
So if we can do that domestically, the encouragement that would have taken into that team on a European stage, with the players, again younger, hungry as well. I think he could have done something on the main European stage in terms of a Champions League outfit, but it is what it is. We have to move on from that. But we did win the '94 Cup Winners' Cup. We should have won the '95, but a freak halfway goal, and then 2000 we got to the penalties and lost. And we just the 2000 final. We just didn't turn up in the final itself. We took it to penalties somehow.
Yeah, and
the big names, the ones you think will step up and not have a problem with the penalties, had the problem. It was like, oh bloody hell. Fast forward 6 years, then we get robbed in the Champions League final. After like, I couldn't. And then we had to wait. Then we had to wait till 2019, and we survived the first half, James. Second half, we just got, there you go, Chelsea, you have it.
Yeah, there you go, you can have it now. Yeah, and with the Champions League as well. I mean, I still haven't watched the game back. I still have not watched the game. I've only ever seen it live once. And sometimes there's been reruns, and I've gone to run to get the remote to turn it over. And I'm like, no, because I've only watched it once, but I remember everything. And that I still, for all the great stuff Wenger did, and I think Wenger admitted this. I think to take off Pires, number one, but then for the greatest player we've ever had not to play in a European Champions League final, and then Frank Rijkaard puts on Larsen and changes the game. Well, if Wenger would have counteracted that,
put Dennis on,
how different would things be? We would have been the first one to win a Champions League. I mean, I don't know about you, but Chelsea having won 2 of them, and Arsenal not having won a single one, it doesn't matter to me if we qualify next year or even in our wildest dreams win it, because we was in it for we was in it for I think double the time Chelsea was in it, and it was participation. What about trying to win the thing? I mean, I think I was looking the other day, Ryan. I think all my games from Amsterdam since 2011, I think it's about 62 now. I think a third of them have been European. Deliberately, I would always prioritise, Bayern Munich, Montpellier, AC Milan, Olympiacos, and then Europa League and all that. And you see about the disdain. I mean, I come back for the game against Vorskla Poltava, and people thought I was mad. But again, it's European football. It's European football, isn't it? I think we won 4-2. And but I see a massive drop off with the Europa League in terms of interest, and you know as well as I do with Champions League next year, if there's a ticket run now, then next year, my goodness, my goodness, if you know because it's Champions League. But I mean, for me, it will depend who we get. I mean, if we end up with a Club Brugge or a Leipzig or a Marseille, might have some of that instead of a Inter Milan, for example, or a Bayern Munich, perhaps. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I would so dearly love to win a European trophy. I mean, I think like with Alex's channel, Cannon Fodder, I think I started on your channel, I think roughly the same time. And I think it was our last season in the Champions League or the first season in Europa League, one of the two. And obviously been speaking ever since. And you think to yourself, okay, this is our 5th season now, beaten in one final, 2 semi-finals, beaten in the last, I believe, 32 by Olympiacos.
Olympiacos knockout round. Yeah.
So this is our 5th season. Try to win the thing, because I will be disappointed if we don't get through against Sporting, and then people will say, "Oh, we've still got the league. We ain't won it yet." I'd much rather, as I say, I sincerely hope. First and foremost, I think we will beat Sporting Lisbon over 2 legs. I think that. I really do. And I hope to be speaking with you, previewing a Real Betis or a Real Sociedad or Feyenoord. Feyenoord for me, another home game after PSV last October, living in the country. But I shall have to be with Feyenoord very creative about telling them where I live, because if I tell them the truth, I won't get home.
No, exactly.
So I just have to say, Almere is only 30 minutes away from Amsterdam, where Mitchell Bergkamp was in the youth setup. So if we do end up with Feyenoord in an eventual quarter-final, I'll just say, yeah, I live in Almere, and then hopefully that will be all right.
I can't imagine, because there was that rivalry.
But as well, it will give me a wonderful opportunity to complete the set. Where
the Trinity.
No, in terms of the top 3 in the Netherlands, you've done them all away from home with the Arsenal. That would be very, very special. But as I say, we'll just take it as we find it. I think final will put Shakhtar Donetsk away, and who were very lucky against Rennes. I mean, I was banging the drum for Rennes, as I was banging the drum for Betis and Sociedad. Can't always get it right, but I also think I can fully understand with the circumstances regarding Ukraine playing their football on neutral territory, people being aware of their situation, which is completely understandable. But there comes a point where I think the cream will rise to the top, and I do believe that Feyenoord will beat Shakhtar. And a little tip for people watching tonight: don't sleep on Ferencváros neither. Don't sleep on them, because they're gunning to play the Europa League final in their national stadium, which is a massive motivation for them. So I think I think in this round of 16, I think Betis, Ferencváros, and Feyenoord, I think they're going to be the ones that push through to the quarterfinals.
Okay, trying to think now. Mine's gone blank. But just before we go, actually, what is the latest? Oh, that's what I was asking, actually. But you mentioned Club Brugge. That's what I was asking, actually, before we wrap things up. Arsenal here. I didn't know until today. I was obviously at Sky Sports, I could do coverage of the build-up and all that for the Champions League games tonight and tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I didn't know Club Brugge had sacked their manager from the start of the season, and they've wanted Scott Parker.
Yeah.
I'd love to know who his agent is, because I'm here sitting here thinking he's managed Fulham, and then obviously left there, went to Bournemouth at the Championship, and then got sacked at Premier League and lost 9-0 this season to Liverpool. Got sacked, and he's managed to wiggle his way into a Champions League job.
Well, I would so lovely. I would so love to sit here and say that I'm his translator in Dutch, but I'm not, unfortunately. I would love to be for Scott Parker in particular, but I haven't been approached yet. I think they'll have a Belgian guy in anyway. But I think Scott Parker once he finds his feet again, because he is a difficult result. Losing 9-0, but he's got something about him. To get Bournemouth up and to get Fulham up, he's got something about him. He has, and I reflect on my interview with his former teammate Jonathan Fortune, where he told me that when he signed for Chelsea, Scott Parker, he was captain of Charlton, and he had a speech in the dressing room, not to take the mick or to say, "Oh, I'm off to Chelsea." He was just completely honest with his teammates. He said, "Look," "Look, guys," he said, "What Chelsea have offered me," he said, "I can't turn it down." He said, "I've got 3 kids." He said, "I'd be silly to turn it down. Hence why I'm moving." So it's not a personal decision or anything like that. And I thought that was quite gracious of him, really. The thing, and if he does crack on at Club Brugge, as we say here, then if he needs a translator, he can hit me up, or I could go and help him. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Maybe I've got to do your job then. There you go. Oh dear, but
yes.
As I say, thanks for obviously coming on. I know it's on a short time frame, obviously a bit extended by about 17 minutes or so, but I do appreciate it.
Also where there is a will, there's a way. It's always lovely to speak to you, Ryan. I've received so many compliments through the years for my work in football writing and interviews, and I still remember the lovely compliment you gave me when I think it was my second season on your channel, where you said that if we're talking about European football, then there's nobody better. So that was a lovely compliment for you to give me. So delighted with that. So happy to help you any time I can, and looking forward to speaking ahead of the second leg, maybe this time next week too.
Hopefully, yes. This time next week we will be doing this again for the second leg, either this time next week or the Wednesday itself. As we get near the date, time itself. But I just want to say, obviously, massive thank you to yourself and everyone in the chat as well as taking part. The audio for this will be up in Spotify in about 30 to 40 minutes once it's downloaded and up and all that jazz. So keep an eye out for that. And do give us a rating over on Spotify and give us any feedback audio-wise. It's massively appreciated. In terms of the channel now, I'm trying to think we're back on Thursday for the actual match day event itself against Lisbon. And then match of the day Saturday, because the men's and women's team are playing on Sunday. So I've got the men's team at 2:00 against Fulham. Then the women's team play Sunday evening, and they're playing tomorrow night. So we're back tomorrow night actually for the women's, because the game they should have played at the weekend is being played tomorrow night against Liverpool in the WSL. So yeah, didn't get a chance to really say much on the last stream, but yeah, again, massive congratulations to the team of Jonas and the girls in general, Kim Little, Leah Williamson, and Katie McCabe, and all that. Completely took Emma completely off guard. Basically, that was it. And to the point where getting backhanded comments about basically we've won stuff more recently. They haven't. They wanted it more. That's the reason I wanted it more. It's like, just say we're the better team, because we were. For once, I can actually say for the first time in a while against the Emma Hayes Chelsea team, Jonas actually got it spot on. And the fact he came out afterwards and said that the fact that Emma went so confident with the same 11 from the previous week that is what he wanted, basically, because he knew the weaknesses from that team already. So he could just go, okay, this is what we're going to do, a slight adjustment, boom. And apart from a little dip in concentration at the start of the game, once you've got our heads down and got enough foot in the game, there's only one winner. Once we've got it equalised, there's only one team winning that final. And again, massive props to them. And hopefully that's the first of many going forward with Jonas now. Because I've had my doubts recently, but yeah. Got a big Champions League game against Bayern Munich as well coming up.
Yes, and know a couple of Goonies that are going as well. Fantastic experience for them as well to go to the Allianz. and the professionalism of Bayern Munich. I mean, when I spoke to Jill Roord, she was saying that this is back in 2017. She told me that we use the same facilities as the men. There's no separation. So this is 6 years ago now. She told me that, and you hope that many English clubs will also cotton on with the same facilities being used for the men and the women's game.
Yeah, hope. Yeah, well, we're seeing with Arsenal ourselves how we're doing things in terms of. It seems like it's like a slow movement from the women's team where they're playing currently at Bournemouth. But we're sort of slowly trying to transition them over to the Emirates because obviously the artwork is not solely just the men's legendary moments and this, that, and the other. They've integrated all parts of the club from the senior team, youth, and the women's team. Obviously, with the 06-07 team, with the actual Champions League trophy that no one else has actually won in England from a women's perspective. That goes under the radar in the UK. Apparently, that doesn't count unless you're Chelsea. It doesn't count.
No, but as lots of things do, it's the same way that the transfer window now. I mean, it'll make you ill, won't it? It's like who's signing this one, who's signing that one. I mean, whenever I see that coverage, Ryan, just quickly before we go, whenever I see that coverage of transfer deadline day, I think of the young player who told me that my transfer didn't work out, James. It didn't quite work out for me. They sold me a dream, and it didn't quite come together.
Yeah.
The pathway for young players. I mean, you take Daniel Ballard's doing brilliant things at Sunderland. Fantastic. I wish he was still with us. Charlie Patino, I hope he gets his chance next year. I really, really do. But it's the same way of, if he's not worth 50 million, he must be useless. There's a player that plays for Rennes called Benjamin Boricchio, number 14 he is. And how on earth he's not being picked up is beyond me. I mean, if I can see it, I'm surely scouts can see it. And surely sporting directors can see it. And managers can see it. He's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. And he appears to have just gone completely under the radar. It's the same as Youssef Sabali at Betis, who will gain more prominence with the Europa League run. Brilliant footballer. Pedraza at Villarreal, he scored a goal at the Camp Nou at the end of last season. If Messi scored that goal, they'd have been playing it now, still, on a loop. But because he scored it, they show it once. Villarreal won, and that's it.
Yeah.
Three footballers in particular, Pedraza, Sabali, and Boricchio from Villarreal, Real Betis, and Stade Rennes, respectively. That wouldn't blow Arsenal's budget, but that would enhance our squad for a Champions League campaign next season. No end. But as I say, you never know who's watching. So if there is a scout watching, then get your notepad out and scribble those 3 names down, because all 3 of them are brilliant footballers.
I mean, you say, you just mentioned there about the younger generation coming. If they're not worth 50, 60 million pound, we don't want them. Andrew, friend of the channel, I think you know him as well from the Dark Square to Where. He put a tweet out yesterday. He literally listed all our attacking players, and included obviously ones from our academy, like the name, their price, how much they paid for them, as a list, the entire attack, like the first choice 3, and all the backups and all that, like Smith Rowe, Eddie, Saka, Balogun is coming through, even though he's out on loan. They've got Jesus, Fabio Vieira, etc., Martinelli, and basically all our entire attack, like squad-wise, works out that we paid less for that, because most of them, obviously, a big chunk of them coming from our academy as well, but we paid less for that than Tottenham paid for a backup to Kane's son and Kulusevski in terms of Richarlison. And what's Richarlison done this season?
Richarlison was also supposed to go to Ajax before he went to Watford. Yeah, it looked for all the world that he was going to come to Ajax, and there was a fee of €600,000. That's it. But for some reason, with work permits, I mean, in the Netherlands here, like in work life and company life, it's completely different. Here in the Netherlands, clubs have to hand their books into the Dutch FA and get sanctioned from anything from points deductions to your license being revoked. And then you get put back into amateur football, as happened with Haarlem, has happened with RBC Roosendaal. So imagine if they did the same thing in the Premier League. Oh, you've been spending too much. You haven't heeded your warnings. License revoked, non-league. They would never do it. But again, that just goes to show the difference. The same with managerial placements. In the Netherlands here, when you start a job, your first contract has a start date and an end date. And is your contract extended? Is it not extended? Is it broken open to be extended? All those different kind of things. And it just goes to show, but I mean, how different countries work. I mean, I'm not saying this country is perfect, because it's quite clearly not. But as someone who originally from the UK, who's been here for almost 2 decades, if I was Prime Minister, which I don't think they'll call me back for, I would look about what they do here and try to educate in the UK, because, as I say, I've always been pro-immigration, Ryan, especially with the decision that I made in life. But if the UK is going in the direction of 70 million people, when I left, there was only 60. So in almost 2 decades, you got 10 million people have almost arrived. If you compare that to the Netherlands, when I arrived here, it was 16.1 million. Now it's 17.4. So you've got one country's gone up by almost 10 million, and the other country's gone up by 1.4 million. And I think with the UK, that we can help ourselves a lot by just improving our infrastructure. And just wanting, if we improve our infrastructure, we can achieve more. And but as I say, I'm not Prime Minister, maybe yet, who knows? But if it's not that I've left the UK and think I'm all right, Jack. I've still got family and friends that live there, still return there for the Arsenal games. And you want your family and your friends and people that you know to be able to do well. So I just hope that in the future that things can be improved.
Yeah, hopefully in that side of things, hopefully touch wood. In terms of the closest thing we here in the UK, we're seeing close to what, well, not even close to it, but in the regions of what you mentioned there about how certain teams are dealt with, is Man City at the moment in terms of. One sec. Another deal. Sorry about that.
Not to worry. I think they were chipping in with an opinion.
One of them was actually born a stone's throw away from Highbury, actually. So
see, there you go. So their opinion is also valid.
Of course, I just have to translate, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, Man City, in terms of, obviously, it turns out over the last few weeks, obviously, a month or so, that the FA or Premier League have been investigating Man City for the last 4 or 5 years, over the space of going back 10 years. Over their transfer dealings, how they're running the club, their money, how the infrastructure, and this, that, and the other. And obviously the implications, everyone's hoping, it won't happen, but everyone's hoping, obviously, if they get found guilty, there'll be what happened to Rangers a few years ago will happen to Man City. It won't, because Man City have money and just pay their way out of the trouble.
Well, I don't think anything will be decided in the short term. No. Anything. And even if it is, it will be contested. So, just as my mother used to say, as regards to certain situations, let them get on with it. It's 11 against 11. We can only do our best. For all the money that City have spent, still no Champions League. They won't win it this year. They won't win it this year. But again, like with Paris Saint-Germain, if you keep chucking money at it, eventually you'll get there. That's what I worry. If you
even PSG haven't got there yet, though. That's the thing.
No, but they'll keep. I mean, I think they'll beat Bayern Munich tomorrow, because that front line. With that front line, you've always got a chance. Always. So that's why. But we can only do the best with what we've got. If you go back into your history, Arsenal also heavily invested in the 30s, Ryan. If you go back into in time, we invested heavily in the 30s in comparison. So it swings and roundabouts. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. And let's hope that for the 5th time of asking in the 5th season on this channel, that we can finally win a European trophy again, because that would be great to happen.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we're going to let you go now. Let everyone else go in the chat. We will, as I say, I will be back tomorrow for Arsenal v Liverpool in the WSL. That game that's sort of been played at the weekend, but obviously in the cup final. But yeah, I'll be back for that. And then Thursday, the men playing against Lisbon. And a very busy weekend after that. Get Friday off and then back again Saturday, Sunday. Yay! And then back again with James this time next week. Hopefully, previewing the second leg. And
yes,
see where we stand on that. A bit more to talk about as well, because obviously we'd have a first leg out of the way.
Absolutely, and then also talking about the away day in Fulham, and for any Gooners going on Sunday, try and take a walk from Hammersmith all the way down, because I enjoyed that. And some people like we're about to get a boat across the Thames, but I think with away days now, I mean, I went to Fulham when we won 5-1. To walk from Hammersmith to Craven Cottage, it's a lovely walk, a really, really nice walk, especially with good weather. So to all the Gooners in Lisbon. Oh, one final thing before I forget, any Gooners travelling to Lisbon that are maybe leaving tomorrow or leaving on Thursday, if you get the green line in Lisbon Metro to Campo Grande, naturally you'll see José Alvalade metro station, and you'll think, oh, that must be the station for the stadium. That's the mistake that I made when I went there in 2012 and returning in 2009 for a game. Campo Grande, the metro line is the green line. If you get out there, and the stadium's literally opposite the when you come out of the station, you can't miss it. And there's a Lidl there just in case you get peckish and you want to go to the supermarket. You can go to the Lidl underneath the stadium. So every Gooner going to Lisbon and also to London, to Fulham, stay safe, have fun, and up the Arsenal.
Yeah, 100%. And as I've rectified that in terms of staying safe and all that. Yeah, so obviously hope both in Lisbon and at Fulham as well. So every wit's about don't do anything stupid, obviously, and just enjoy yourself. We're on the business end of the season, both from the European perspective, but also the title race perspective. We are on the business end now. Just enjoy it game by game. Enjoy it for what it is, and if the glory happens and we do win the trophies, we can enjoy it even more come May.
Exactly. A fantastic way to sign off. Brilliant stuff, Ryan. Really enjoyed it, and all the best, and speak this time next week.
Yep, and to everyone else, take care of yourselves, and as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Up the Arsenal.